welcome to the Casey Catch Up with Austin Kalama, a really open-minded young man who's pushing the limits of not only downwind foiling, but wing foiling, prone foiling in the surf, pumping, but also big wave stuff. He's charging at jaws, using hand paddles, prone downwinding, but also for paddling into big waves at jaws. A really cool chat with a really open-minded, progressive young guy, and it was a pleasure to chat to him. I think I've got him convinced to do a deflate downwinder, which would be pretty cool. But yeah, this is my fortnightly Casey Catch Up. If you're interested in downwind foiling, check out the Coach Casey Club on my website, www.caseyoz.com. But yeah, thanks for tuning in and enjoy the chat. All right, welcome to the Casey Catch Up. We've got Austin Kalama, and excited to talk about a few different bits and pieces. Florida, we've got Hood River, we've got his recent Piahi session, and just talking downwind foiling in general. Austin, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Casey. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm so stoked because I spoke to your old man a little while ago, and he was like, "Oh, you need to get Austin on." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love to talk to Austin. He's got, you're pushing the limit, not just downwind foiling, but also surf foiling." I remember a session probably 3 or 4 years ago now, and you're doing backflips on the old Nalu at the boat harbor, and I'm like, this kid is next level.
The Nalu, man, that's a memory. That was a while ago.
Yeah, it was like the first little foil, and you were sending it. But yeah, you've always been pushing it. It's cool to see. And recently, downwind foiling. So do you want to talk us about, I guess, your challenges with downwind foiling and why you love it?
Downwind foiling is probably one of my favorite ways to ride a foil right now. Like, I mean, we just got out of summer, so we're starting to get back into the waves and stuff. But for a while, 5 or 6 months, like that was everything. It's just the freedom you have downwind foiling is completely different than anything, like when you're on a wave, when that wave ends, like, yeah, you can keep pumping and you can make it work for a while, but man, when you're downwinding and you see you got 10 miles in front of you till that runs over, and you can do anything you want for that entire time. You can go as fast as you want, you can just take it easy and just carve it like you're riding a wave. Like that's the freedom to ride however you want to ride. Like it's so much fun. It took me a while too. Like my first downwind run was actually on the Kai, like the old Kai, a long time ago.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the worst experiences of my life. I was on a 7.6 stand-up board that we had turned into a foil board, and basically got up twice for about 5 seconds and paddled basically 9 miles on a tiny little board.
That's actually pretty impressive. I had a similar experience on the Kai. I was over in WA, in Mandurah, getting ready for the King of the Cup, which is on this weekend. And yeah, I was using a stand-up that was retrofitted. I think it was like 7.2 or something. And it was like one of those square boards, and using the Kai to try to get going. And it just wasn't quite enough lift, was it? It was just not, like you, I think I got up once for as you said, 5 seconds. And then it was like, man, how do people do this? It was,
I don't, was that your first time trying to downwind, or had you tried a few times?
No, that was my first time trying. I'd seen, Kai Lenny doing it, and I was like, oh,
yeah. Yeah, because like on the wave, you're like, oh, I have plenty of lift. Like this will work. Like I don't see why I wouldn't be able to get going once I'm on.
Yeah.
But seeing the connections and actually making those connections from bump to bump where the energy is so much different, because you have 4 or 5 seconds to really harness that energy and then translate it to another bump that you can keep, moving with.
Exactly.
And so at first, like, you can be the best foiler in the world and pump like crazy, but if you don't know how to connect those bumps and put those pieces together, you're not going anywhere. You're going to be miserable.
Yeah, and that's what you just mentioned there, the difference between a wave versus downwind. On a wave, you get this really big burst of energy, and with that, you can use it to link waves. Downwind, it's like everything's kind of halved, but it's halved across the entire ocean. So you're never getting that massive burst, but the bumps are closer together, so it's trickier but easier in some respect. I don't know, to me, like now that I've got it, and I'm sure it's the same for you, now that I've got it, it's like, well, I can actually pump better out to sea downwind than I can in the surf break. Like I can
Oh yeah.
stay up way easier with wind at my back and the bumps. Whereas in the surf break, it's like, oh, it's laboring. You know, you're pumping and you're working pretty hard.
You get that energy, and then you gotta, take that and then transfer it to another wave, and that, they're a lot further apart. Whereas
Exactly.
the bumps will be, I mean, you're still going maybe 40, 50 yards from bump to bump, or 40, 50 meters, but it's all right there. So you like bang, get that energy, do a couple pumps, really get up to speed, and then boom, shoot to the next one. Pump for a second, get that speed, boom, you're off to the next one. And
Yeah.
you're maybe, I mean, when you're really on a good bump, you're maybe gliding for 30 or I'd say 30 seconds on a really long rolling bump
Agreed.
is like the most you'll get. But then once you see that energy is about to run out, you really got to be looking for like, where's the next one? Where's the next one? And so it's almost like you get like a quarter of a wave, but then you get 500 quarter of waves,
Yeah.
rather than one like really long rolling like actual wave. It's like you're just looking for those little pieces of waves that you can connect to make a long ride.
Yeah, which I don't know for you. Like for me, that's the beauty of it. It's like, one of the best things about foiling, even in the surf, is getting one wave and just using it as like a little chip shot, and then linking it up and doing that turn for the next one. For downwind, we're doing 1,000 of those the entire run. It's like I'm getting one, I'm going to pull off this at the right time and link up the next one, and it's the lines you can take are endless, and it's
exactly. I've just been messing around with like doing 360s on bumps. Like I'll be on a bump and I'll see a bump behind me, and you just set this big carving bottom turn, and you wrap all around the back of the bump, and you wrap to the bump behind you.
Yes.
And that those feel really cool. Actually,
Yeah.
I've been psyched on that move.
That's epic. Yeah.
No, it's like you get on a little wave, and it's like on a long wave you can do 10 turns maybe, but on a little bump you do like maybe 2 or 3 nice turns, and you take the speed out of that last turn and use it to whip you into the next one.
Yeah, back home I've been downwinding with Zane Westwood a lot, and then with a mate of his, or mate of our both, Joe Carron, and Joe's still learning. And when we go with him, we do exactly that. We do the 360s. We call them charity loops. So
charity.
So if you're too far behind and you get charity looped, it's like, that's you want to avoid being, getting the charity loop done. So even the other day I was with Zane and I was on the RS 1000 and he was on the 1150. And it's like, if I can get like 2 charity loops on him in a run, it's like, okay, this foil was definitely way faster today. But then other days, like we were just talking about Hood River, sometimes we've done a bit of testing between the 1150 and the 1300 RS. And there's definitely a point there where the 1300 is going to be easier to glide and sometimes faster too. Whereas the 1150 is more work to stay up and going, with the hope that you get that big bump to get you sort of up to speed. But it's I just want to sort of lead us into that race in Hood River because Jacko and Matteo, you guys had a pretty good battle by the sounds of it. So let's get some insight on that.
Yeah, like we had been doing some training like a few days before that. I was doing a bunch of runs with Jack and Matteo, and that was actually the first, for probably the week leading up to that race, I had just gotten all the new RS wings, and I was messing with 1300 a bunch, and I was like, oh, this really feels good. Even in flat water, just pumping it, I was like, oh, this feels good. And then I tried the 1150. The one good day we had, one pretty good day where the bumps were really solid, and that thing just moved like crazy, and you could turn it good too. I could get from bump to bump like nothing. So I was like, this is feeling pretty good. And then my dad was telling me, he's like, yeah, I'm on the 1300. Like if I'm on the 1300, you should be on the 1150. And I was like, all right, like why not? And then I just made the stupid decision. I was like, yeah, I'll just race up the 1150. And so like we got up and started. And at first, like, I was like, all right, this isn't too bad. Like, I had a little bit of speed, but probably like 10 minutes into the race, the wind died a lot and the bumps got way smaller. And then, like, I could get that speed up quick on the 1150, but with nothing to connect it to, really, it was a lot of work in between those bumps. And they were hard to find. Like, somehow, I don't know how I managed to keep it up basically the entire way to the finish line almost. But it was the most work I've ever done. But they were on some bigger wings, so man, like on those bigger wings, you can just catch the energy of that bump, and you can glide on it so much further and so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, you get kind of maxed out on those bigger wings in smaller bumps, whereas smaller, faster foils, it's like you have to pump so much, and when that little bit of energy comes, you never even get maxed. You're just sort of like just like a little reprieve, and you got to go straight back into pumping again. It's
exactly. So I never had that time to recover. Like on a big wing, you get on a bump and you can glide on it for a while, and you can kind of recover for a little bit, catch your breath, and then use that recovery to just spring right into the next one and get going. But the whole time I was like, I was like nonstop pumping as hard as I could. Like it took everything I had to keep it going. But I mean, yeah. But I mean, on the Mako runs, I've been taking the 1150 out, and that thing's insane. I mean, just because the bumps on Mako, they're a lot bigger and have more energy, so you can take that energy and just fly through to the next bump.
Yeah. And that's a big difference that I guess I've found here in Sydney. We've got ocean runs and like harbour or bay runs. And in the bay runs, I'm using usually the NL 220. And then in the ocean runs, I've even used the RS 1000. And
really?
Yeah, you'd be able to use the 1000 easy. Like honestly, you'd froth on it. Mako run on a good day, you'll fly. Yeah. I did
I haven't used it too much.
Yeah, it definitely, it's because it's lower aspect, the 1000. It doesn't glide as well as the 1150, but when it's like a nuking day, like we had 20 to 35 knots and like a 3.5 meter south swell just last weekend. And it was like, it was really good. I did my fastest ever kilometer, 2 minutes for 1 kilometer.
No way.
Yeah, which is getting pretty close. That's 29.9 kilometers per hour for 1 kilometer. So
damn,
yeah,
that
was the quickest I've ever done by like a long shot.
I gotta start. I gotta get one of those GPS watches that time.
Yeah, the Garmin's are good. You know, they sort of, or the Polar, or it makes it. You get your stats.
Yeah, right. I gotta get into that because I usually just time it on my watch, like the Mako run. I think it's between 8 and 9 miles. And I'm usually doing it in between like 40 and 50 minutes, something like that. But I don't know like my top speed or my average speed or anything like that. But that would be really cool to know.
Yeah, no, I want to know what you're doing too.
Wings like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's so good for like I kind of nerd out. I a lot of the time, I think the quickest I'd gone before this weekend was around 25.4, 25.5 k's an hour for the average. But then this last weekend, I averaged 25.9, which
that's a good average, though.
Yeah, well, that's 1150, dude. It moves, right? It's a good wing. And then
seriously, I love it.
And then just this weekend, 25.9 kilometers per hour, which is, what's that in miles? I'm going to look it up right now. 25.9 kilometers per hour in mph. It is 16, almost, it's 16.1 miles per hour.
That's pretty solid. That's moving.
Yeah, I was happy with it.
Right, I would be too.
I'm sure there's guys that gone quicker in Mako, but here in Sydney we don't have technically the best run in the world, but it's cool that we can go quick sometimes.
Oh yeah, anywhere where there's bumps and you can just link them, doesn't need to be the best in the world to have fun.
That's exactly. And the speed isn't always the most important thing, but when it's big, it's like if you're going that fast, it's pretty fun. That's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's fun when you're like full front foot pressure, like dropping into like head high bumps, just like like hold on, like we're gonna get moving here.
Seriously, hold on. So and then so do you know what Jack Ho and Mateo were using that race in Hood River?
I know Jack is on lift. I'm not sure. I think Mateo's on Armstrong.
Yeah. I think Jack was using the 170 high aspect, and Mateo must have been using the 1125, I think, from Armstrong. I haven't tried the 1125, but it seems to go pretty good, I guess. It was good.
Yeah, working good for him.
Yeah, working good for him, exactly.
But that's so much. And I like the new RS because, like, I don't know what it is with that little step in the wing. You can carve so hard, and even you can fully pop out the wing, and it just re-engages so smooth. Like you didn't even pop out.
Doesn't ventilate at all. Like it's like when the tip comes out, the step stops the water from running all the way up the wing, and it's like you can do like a full foil out turn and continue.
No, they're sick. I've been so psyched on them lately. I've been using the 1000 winging a lot. and
So good
that's
for winging,
super
right?
sick. It's
Yeah.
so good. It's so fast. And it's got a lot of pop. Like I liked the NLs, but they were a little, you couldn't push on them. Like I didn't feel like they're as
They were a
like
little bit more
reliable.
back-footed, I found, and they sort of stalled a
Yeah,
little bit. Yeah.
exactly. You needed a little more back pressure, but these ones, the RSs are a lot more like the GLs where you can really depend on them. You know, you can push it and you can put weight on that, load up that weight, and then whenever you want, just pop back onto the back foot, and they would just launch up out of the water, and you can
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
launch airs on those things.
Okay, so for winging, are you doing like wave riding on the wing, or you airs and tricks, or what are you focusing on with that stuff?
Oh, it's hard to say. I do, like when there's waves, I'm in the waves. If there's no waves, I'm just blasting airs as high as I can.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've really been getting into the waves. I actually, in Florida, there was like, it wasn't that good, but I was trying some new moves over there, and actually, first try, I pulled this one move I was so psyched on. It was like an alley oop like I do in the surf, but one-handed on the wings. I was on the wave. I don't even remember what. I just did it like so randomly. I'd never tried it before. I was like, this looks like a good one to try it on. I think I had it in my right hand. I was going on the line, popped up, did the alley oop, switched it mid rotation, and it came down with it on my left. And I rode out of that, and I was like, no way. Like, I was tripping on that. But yeah, like, all like the rotations in the waves, and I'm working on the backflips. I can pull them every here and there, but they're hard, man. You gotta
Yeah.
commit hard for the backflips. But
Yeah, the
yeah,
backflips have scared me. I'm trying to keep it a little bit more functional, I guess.
yeah, I've popped like 3 wings already trying backflips, so I'm like,
Oh, that's what I've
I'm not
heard.
even try.
Yeah, yeah. You
Just
need a good sponsor, I guess, to be doing to be sticking those backflips.
seriously, I've been seeing you doing the downwinders with the wing. You like deflate it when you're getting up. Like, how was it riding with that? Do you still feel like you can ride similarly with the wing, just like under your arm?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been doing the deflate and like literally having it under my arm. And originally I tried it because I wanted to try some of the TKR wings for downwind, like the TKR, I think it was the 110 or something. And that thing was so fast, but like it was really hard to paddle up.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I can
once
wing,
you're up, you're good though.
once you're up, you're good. Yeah, exactly. So I used it with the wing and I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. The only disadvantage with the wing is when the wind isn't like when the coast kind of has to bend around and you have to sort of pump across the wind. The wind kind of grabs the wing a little bit, but that's the only disadvantage. And like it's kind of like it's definitely more inconvenient than a paddle, but you should try it, dude. I reckon you'd crush it first go. It's not that hard.
I want to because I like downwinding with the wing, but I feel like I've found like a lot of the time, like a lot of times you're going faster than the wind when you're really moving. And so the wing, when it's still inflated, it gets in the way a little bit, you know? So like I've been seeing you deflating it, and that looks pretty cool because you can get up when you need, you use it when you need it, but then it's like not as in the way when you're actually surfing and riding the bumps, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I gotta try that.
Yeah, I reckon you'd froth on it. Maybe even like a self whip into jaws. You know, get on the thing, deflate.
I gotta try that actually. That's smart.
Yeah.
When I'm riding the waves, like I'm getting better at riding the waves without the wing getting in the way. Like you switching hands and kind of maneuvering in a way so that my turn doesn't, or the wing doesn't get in the way of my turn. But sometimes like it'll be flipping over and doing weird things, and it's gonna be a little hard to control. But yeah, like, I could just get onto a bump way outside at jaws, real quick, just like get it under my arm or something, and just fly in. That'd be so much fun. I saw Zane. He didn't deflate it, but I saw him winging jaws like last year, and it looked pretty sick. So this year I definitely want to give it a try.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, there's a lot of the time when I'm wing surfing, there's guys that are towing in at the same time. So I'll be like sort of, you know, like you say, like the wing kind of, most of the time I feel I can get out of the way as long as the wind direction is right for me. But if it's, there's a direction that doesn't work so well, and I'm like, man, I need to get rid of this. If the wave was better, I'd deflate it and just sort of ride the wave. But generally speaking, we're winging in pretty shitty waves, which is the beauty of foiling. But
right, shitty waves are good waves when you're winging.
Yeah. But yeah, the deflate is a really cool way, and you know you're a pretty good pumper and you can paddle up on the sup. But I guess for me, I view the deflate as a a doorway to downwinding for those that don't have like sup skills, you know, because it's hard. It's hard to paddle up on the foil.
It's hard. Doing the paddle up on a sup board, it's real. It took me a long time to really figure that out.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Like, how was your experience learning to sup on the downwind, like the downwind side of things?
Well, I mean, I had a pretty solid sup background, so I had been riding the sup and paddling like, you know, pretty hard. Like I had raced a little bit on the sup, so I had a, you know, a decent technique. But I remember it's probably 2017 or something like that. My dad made a deal with me. He's like, all right, if you can figure out how to pump up onto this wing from flat water, you can have your next board for free. And I was like, oh, I gotta figure this out.
Yeah.
So I had a couple different boards, but then I finally figured it's almost like pole vaulting. Like you're using the paddle to create leverage to pull yourself up.
Yeah.
And it's like it's almost like doing an ollie. Like you're pushing down on your back foot for a second, kind of vaulting yourself with the paddle, and then leaning onto that front foot to get the drive back down.
Yeah.
And it's challenging, but I mean, once you figure it out, it opens so many doors to like riding waves that you didn't think you could like get into on time, or like just doing crazy downwinders and not being scared of like
falling. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I guess once you can paddle up, like you never look back. You don't like anything. Oh, like have you done many prone downwind foils on the Mako Run, or you just pretty much supping it?
I've done a few. My dad made a new board that, you know, it makes it pretty easy to get in prone. I mean, it's still fairly hard. You know, it takes a few tries, but it's not like impossible. But I've done a few runs where I'm on I think it's a 4-2 prone, and I'll do step offset hook keeper, and then pump straight out. And it's like, if you fall on that, you're not getting back up.
Yeah.
So it's fun. It just adds like another, like, I don't do that too often, but if I'm training for a race, that's good race training, because it really ups the stakes a little bit. Like, all right, you better pull it together, dude. If you fall, you're not getting back up. So you kind of play it a little safer, but also figure out, like, you know, what you can and can't do. Like, all right, I know I can't do that. So if I want to really play it safe and get the best time I can, this is what I have to do at this point, you know. But it's so much fun.
Yeah, and on that, like, so the prone stuff, like on the small boards, like you've got to play it safe. And that's what I've found. I've done a couple prone downwind runs, and it's like I don't want to turn as hard, you know, because if I turn and like pop a wingtip out and sort of breach too far, it's like game over, man. Like that's I got to paddle into the beach, and you're like 20 minutes behind your mate.
Right.
So yeah, that's to me the other advantage of the SUP is you push harder, because you know if you come down, it's like no big deal. I just paddle up again. It's
I'll try anything on the SUP. Like if I fall, it's like I'll get back up in a minute or two, no big deal.
Yeah,
but it's funny. But back on that wing top, when you were just talking about the deflation, I just had an idea. Like, you know how they have those inflation Jaws vests?
Dude, I just released a video. You have to go check it out.
Did you make one something like that?
Yeah, I made one. Yeah.
Like a CO2 cartridge where you pop it or whatever and it blows back up?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's it. Because then you can deflate it when you need, but like, let's say you fall down and you need to inflate it real quick, just pop that thing.
Straight back up. Exactly. So I was practicing this. There's a run we do on a westerly wind. So it's like offshore winds. We go in one of the bays and you can't drive up to the top. So we usually wing upwind and then we deflate, we downwind. And I like to go a little bit further than where we start. You can kind of go a little bit further out to sea because the bumps get better. And so I kept going, and originally I was bringing a pump with me, and I was just sort of pumping it up in the water, and dude, that sucked. It was hard.
Yeah,
you know,
that sounds like it sucked.
Yeah. So I was chatting to a friend of mine. He's like, I think we can develop this thing. And so we grabbed a soda stream bottle, which is like 60 liters of like CO2, because, you know, it's more than just a life jacket. We're inflating an entire wing.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And he just made this little attachment that you literally screw onto the top of the soda stream bottle, and we zip tied it to the boom on my wing. And so literally the idea is we downwind, we deflate, we just do your normal deflate downwind. And then when you get to the end, while you're still on foil, you just literally press the button at the top and it starts re-inflating. And you're like, as you go on, you're inflating while you're on the foil, still downwinding. You sort of get into free wing sort of setup. Then you flip the wing over, grab it, and you just sail back up.
Right back up. Yeah. Dude, that sounds so. You gotta send me one of those things. Dude.
Yeah. We're trying to get it all sorted, and you know, the CO2 cartridge, I guess, is the easy thing to get, but it's the attachment to the hose to the wing. That I guess is the tricky part, and it's not that hard to develop. You just need someone who knows those sort of bits and pieces. So
how to make that happen.
Yeah, but it's exactly like you said, like big wave stuff. You only use the CO2 when you're in trouble. Like, on a good session, you don't have to use it at all.
Yeah, exactly.
When you get in trouble, it's like, okay, I want to pull this thing, get out of trouble real quick.
When you need it, it's good to have.
Exactly. So it's like people are like, oh, it's going to be expensive. Always filling up CO2. It's like, don't use it all the time.
You don't need to fill it up every time.
Yeah. So for a Mako run, I guess, Malik, like generally when we sup or we foil on most runs, you sort of get out past the coast, and especially here in Sydney, the coast kind of will bend out at you on the coast on the run. Whereas in Maui, the Mako run, like you start at Mako and the coast bends away and the wind kind of goes across. But on really north wind days where it's like you get pushed onto the coast, and it's kind of like you got to go to Kihei because Maliko's no good.
Yeah. With
a wing, you could just wing further out to sea, and then you could like still have a sick angle to sort of downwind all the way back into shore.
Yeah, you just get way out, and then you have that straight beeline to where you're trying to get to.
So instead of having like paddle out of the gulch or like paddle way out from Hookeeper, you just wing and you like sort of tack upwind and go as far out to sea as you can. And then you just got like a straight run, like no tacking out, just like literally bombing it the whole way.
That'd be so much fun. Yeah, I gotta find someone over here who can make me one of those things.
Yeah,
so that's
what you'll be able to rig it up for sure. There's plenty of handy people in Maui.
So someone can figure that out.
Yeah. But I'll definitely send you the video. But it's I just released it last night and had a bit of feedback, good feedback. So it's cool. Yeah, hopefully I'm hoping it becomes like a discipline. Wing down, like proper downwinding on the wing. Rather than as you said, like wrestling getting out of the way of the wing. You're like dodging it.
Because that's the only thing that's kind of I feel like is holding it back a little bit, because like the wing is sick. But then when you're really hauling downwind, it gets in the way a little bit. Because a lot of the time when you're really moving, you're going faster than the wind,
Yeah.
Like when you're really dropping into like a big moving bump, like that wing's getting in the way a little
bit. You've got to basically like shift it from like to your side, like right or left, to like almost behind you, because you're going so much quicker than the wind. You don't feel the wind anymore. And it's like your speed is now the wind, like in your face rather than behind you.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's the tricky part, I guess, isn't it? For the winging, it's the downwinding with the wing. It's so close to being good, but it just gets that little bit in the way, and it's not the same experience as like with a sup or prone. It's like, oh, this is so nice. Don't have to worry about it.
You just have that so much freedom when you don't have the wing in the way. Like the wing is also like if your goal isn't really to do a downwind and you just want to mess around out in the bumps, like the wing is fine. But if you're really on a mission, you're like, I want to get from here point A to point B as fast as I can, and just fly on these bumps. Like the wings a little,
it gets a little bit. There's guys that are, I guess I call it power winging, like power dinging. They literally just put it like the biggest wing, like hand sail, and smallest foil. They just go as fast as they can downwind. Yeah. But
I've seen some of that. That doesn't look. I mean, it looks fun if like you just want to go as fast as possible.
To me, I think I'm with you. Yeah. It's a little bit. It's sailing. It's more sailing than downwinding to me personally. But it's
Yeah. It's like those guys with the kite foilers. Like it's cool that they're going that fast, but aside from going fast, there's not a whole lot to it,
Yeah, you kind of lose the surfing. I guess that is the benefit of downwinding. Like you're saying earlier, like it's like a little puzzle piece, and you got to you're riding this little wave from maximum sort of 30 to 40 seconds, then peeling off, and then linking this next one, and then peeling off that one, and it's a pretty cool experience.
That's my favorite thing, is like the surf aspect, but still having like the distance, because like I used to downwind stand-up paddle race, and I never really got that into it because like it was a lot of work, and you're kind of riding a wave for like 5 seconds, and it's just I didn't get that fulfillment out of it. But with the foil, man, you're just ripping down the coast as long as 10 miles or whatever.
You're surfing, whereas like the stand-up seem like boats compared to the foils. It's like we can turn these things, and especially the new RS wings, like that to me has been a next level kind of change.
Seriously.
For downwinding, it's like way more like the P&L. I used to use the P&L 185 a lot for downwind, and that thing is a beast downwind. Like it's fast, it can go fast and slow, but to turn it It's a little
Yeah,
bit
you
of a
can't really
little
take
bit of a
that from
pig. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like downwinding a bus.
exactly.
Yeah.
Uh, nah,
I
that
want
was
to
fun.
I want to shift and let's talk about Florida because that looked like a pretty cool race. I think there's things that they can improve, like to make it probably a bit more accessible for more people. But in terms of just the race that's going on at the moment, it looks epic, and
Oh,
you've done pretty well the last
yeah,
two versions of it. You know, but you've won like 4 out of 3 disciplines, right? Is it out of
yeah,
in the
yeah,
last 2 years? It's
yeah.
dominant.
My first, yeah. Back to the titles. But no, the first year, I actually used the same wing both years. Like I was just gonna say the PNL, man. That's the one. If you just
It
want to go
pumps so good.
fast and straight, it pumps so good. Yeah, like yeah, that first year did the sup and the prone. And the first year was still a little underground. Not too many people knew about it, so the competition wasn't, crazy tough. So that one, I'll take it. I won. It was sick.
Yeah.
But the one I won this year, that felt a lot better because there was some good competition this
Yeah, it
year.
looks like it.
Like
Yeah.
with Mateo there, like that, I had some really good races with him. Like
Yeah.
he took the sup division this year, but our first sup heat was me and him, and man, the whole entire time he was like right behind me. I think he took the lead for a second at one point, but then I was able to take it from him, and just our first heat I won. So I was psyched on that, and then in the final he took it a little bit. So it was back and forth. So he
Yeah.
killed it. He killed it. I can't say anything. He was, he was moving that thing.
Looks like
And
epic racing, like you said, back and forth, like nothing between. It sort of came down to probably a little bit of the waves, and looked like the
then,
beach entry was probably a little bit of a probably
yeah,
played too big a part.
that's the thing. There's a lot of strategy to it. Like with just regular downwinding, it's like there's a bit of where you want to set your line, but once you set it, like boom, going straight, that's where you're going. But with the beach start, like do I want to like what peak's looking good to me to start on? Which one looks more consistent? Do I want to be on the left side of the pack or the right side of the pack? And that's just running off the start. Once you get into the water, like at my first few heats, I was riding a longer mast because I was like, you can usually pump a longer mast better. But as the tide's changing, you have a lot less room. So I actually ended up doing that race, I think, on a either 24 or 26-inch mast, which
Wow.
is not what I'm used to at all. I'm used
No
to running a
way.
longer mast. So luckily, I kind of adjusted to it by the final. My first 2 or 3 heats in my prone division, I was blowing it. I couldn't I kept popping wing tips and kept falling, and it was frustrating. But by my last by the final, I kind of figured out how high I could get on it, how hard I could turn on it. Because with the shorter mass, it also limits how much you can lean on it, because
Yeah.
you have room. So by the final, I finally had figured it
Adjusted.
all out, and I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, I know what I got to do, and psyched. I was so psyched to take that because who was it? Um, James James Jenkins
Yeah.
was right there on my ass. Like I think he actually had a lead on me for a second, and we were just battling back and forth. But yeah, like I think he fell or something like that. But it was really close. But just the strategy, like I I tried a few different strategies throughout that race because I'd seen different people making it work in different ways. Like there was the inside line strategy where I'd see guys catching their waves, getting up, and then just beelining it on the inside as fast as I could just to go to the finish line. And so I tried that a couple times, and it wasn't really working for me. I went back to the strategy I'd used a year before, and that's what really worked for me. Everybody has a little, their pumping style is different. Some people are better at pumping like fast in a straight line, and they can just do that. Some people need like a little more of a break in between. Like me, like I can pump for a while, but being able to have that little break, like my strategy was caught my wave and then basically went out as far as I could, as fast as I could to try and get onto a wave, and then I can kind of use that wave that I'm on to rest a little bit, but still get that distance towards the buoy
Yeah.
that I got to get down. And so I was zigzagging a little more, which was a little slower, but it gave me a little more time to recover. So when I needed to attack, I had the energy to really get after it.
Yeah. Yeah. So for the long run, it was like, and especially it sounds like a long day of pumping and
Oh,
running on
I
the
didn't
beach and
I did more heats. I did the most heats that day.
Yeah,
I
right.
had like
Oh, because you
four.
were falling as well, so you had what replicharge stuff as well.
Yeah. I didn't make the first prone heat, and so I had to go into the repo heat for that. And then I did my like during my sup heat. One of the guys said I didn't go all the way around the buoy, so I had to do another lap to advance into the next sup heat. So I think I ended up doing like 3 laps more than anybody else. I think it was like 3 laps more than anybody else in the contest. And I remember after my semi in the prone, I was just kind of feeling like I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of just blown out from just pumping nonstop for like the last like 3 hours. So I actually ended up just going for just like a little surf session just to kind of like clear my head a little bit, like enjoy what I was doing for a second. And I knew I didn't have that much time. And because when you work really hard and then just stop moving, I feel like that's when the cramps can kind of start setting in. So I was like, all right, I just gotta
Stay
keep my
warm. Yeah.
don't work too hard, but just kind of keep it moving, because like if I yeah, like I've done it a couple times where like I work super hard, sit down, and then boom, everything locks up. So I was like, if I can just keep everything loose, keep everything moving, then I feel like I might have a better shot. But I don't know. But it was so much fun. Yeah, like the format for that contest and just the competition that there was. It was one of the funnest contests I've done. Like uh, Oregon was awesome, but it's almost like too straightforward. Like start, finish, and that's it.
Mm.
Whereas Florida is like start, kind of find find your strategy, and there's also that like there's so many other people around you. You kind of gotta fit like find your way through everybody. Like when there's
Yeah.
20 people starting at the same time, it's almost like sometimes you're like playing chicken with people. Like
Oh,
I
no
want this
doubt.
line. No, I want this line. Like you're kind of fighting for your position, fighting for which line you want, and there's a lot going on, and it's just it's fun. Like it just brings that excitement into it. Other than just grinding. It's like, well, who's going where? And it's so close that it's like, I really got to get moving because he's literally 15 feet behind me. Whereas on some of the other races, you got like hundreds of yards in between people where there's just so much room. But when it's all compacted into the surf break,
Yeah.
it's exciting. It's really exciting.
Were there any collisions? Because it looks like you said, like you're playing chicken with people.
um, I don't think there was any actual I don't think there's any actual full collision. I think actually my first year I did it, me and James actually we bumped tips of our wings one time. I don't think
Yeah.
neither of us fell, but we did bump wings for a sec.
Oh, yeah, wobbled.
But this last race, there was one time it was before my final where I was like right up behind. I'm not sure who I was behind. It might have been Mike Pedigo or something like that. And I was like trying to cross to the others because he was kind of going, I was going in, and I hit like the turbulence under the
Yeah.
water from his wing, and that threw me off, and I fell on that and I had to get back up and going again. But it's like you want to get close to people and show them you're there, but if you get too close, you're in their turbulence and it can mess you up. So it's like
Big time.
there's so much going on that's like it's going and it's happening so fast. You're like thinking like want to get up close to him, don't want to get too close to him, want to find my own strategy, got to pick my own like it's crazy, man, but it's
Yeah.
so much fun. You got to
It,
get over there next time, man.
yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. It reminds me of like kind of like PPG, like on the SUP race. It's so much
Yeah,
carnage. And it's like every time you turn the can,
exactly.
it's like the situation changes. Whereas,
Mm-hmm.
like you say, downwind, it's like kind of too simple. It's like usually,
Yeah,
from the first, you know, half of the race, who's going to win? Because it's like, okay, this person's ahead. They're probably not going to get caught. Whereas the
yeah.
course races, it's like, all right,
Anything could
so
happen.
Austin's in front, but he fell off in the waves. So, Mateo's coming up and then James Jenkins is coming. And it's like, literally, there's all these scenarios in every race. Like you said, you won a couple early, but then you lost a couple later on and it, then came back again. And it's not predictable.
No, anything could happen. You could be so sure, like, I got a huge lead. I'm gonna kill this, and boom, it's low tide, and you hit the sand, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's like it's really fun to watch. Like it's a really good spectator like thing for foiling because like foiling's cool, but when you have that like neck to neck aspect of racing where it's like, oh, he's going good. Oh shit, he just fell. Like, who's gonna
Yeah.
take the lead now? And oh, he's back, catch up still. Like, it's just so fun to really like. It's really engaging,
Yeah, I'd love to see it at like a point break. Like imagine if there was like a 100 meter point break, and you had to do like a lap, and you had to go around some certain cans along the way, and then like turn at the bottom, and then pump all the way up to the start. And so instead of like, I guess, take out the beach start part of it, because some people just the beach start kind of is a bit sketchy, and you're talking about like mast length, and you're talking about you have to run with your board, and makes it probably a little bit harder and probably less accessible for some people. It doesn't completely, but like I think it'd be cool to have like another one that's like a little bit different, where it's just like deep water start, and like especially on a sup. You were at the race at Olokai, right? Remember we did the Olokai race?
Yeah,
We started.
I do remember that one.
Yeah.
The
Full
surf
sprint.
was like 20 foot that day.
Yeah. And they dropped us off like out behind like uppers, basically, or like in line with uppers, and we downwinded like pumped up in the bumps. So it was on like straight in through lowers, and you got lit up.
I got lit up,
yeah.
I was up, and I was on a wave coming in, and I think I overfoiled and wiped out, and then like took 3 bombs on the hand like during the race and broke my leash.
Yeah,
that did not go good, but it was exciting.
Dude, that was pretty fun. I'd love to see that sort of and maybe instead of coming like straight in, like pump back out again, and then a bit more through the surf would be pretty cool.
Yeah, have a buoy on the inside that you got to go around, or like maybe going like across the lineup. I don't know.
It'd be cool though, right? There's so many opportunities. Yeah, that'd be sick. But yeah, I like the idea of a deep water start, which for a SUP is so doable,
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, so many options. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, good way to get fans involved, and good spectator sport, and you can really just push the racing on that,
Yeah, even like imagine at Hookkeeper if you use like the channel between Hookkeeper and lanes, like in sort of just pumps between the waves. That'd be kind of sick too.
That'd be cool. Yeah, like two point or two like point breaks. You start at one, cross the channel, go to the other one, and then go back and forth between the two peaks.
Or even that'd like really starting at lanes and heading down to Mamas, like, and then like back up the inside. There's so many options, and you just need like,
because there's waves through that whole section, so you could really stretch it out and make it like a mile long course through the surf. Because like on the bumps, it's not as like, I can't say it's predictable, but which way those bumps are going to move, and you know what you got to do. But through the surf, you can be like, oh, there's a set coming. I want to get out further to get this set.
Yeah.
Or, there's nothing coming. I want to ride this one a little longer to get a little more length out of it. There's just so many things changing in the surf.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And so many people surf foil, and they can link waves in the surf. I think like downwinding, like I love, obviously the downwind thing that's one thing. And I think that'll always be, that's kind of like the pinnacle in some respects, like, the channel crossings, epic on the foil.
Yeah.
But that's not for everyone. Not everyone likes to go out in the deep water. And some people just love in the surf zone. And as you said, spectator wise, it's probably going to grow the sport a bit more. And there's so many options, like depending on the lineup that you have at your disposal, you can change the course and make it super exciting. I think it'd be
exactly.
I have to start the foil pump surf zone tour, surf foil pump tour.
I think that's gonna bring them spectators, and people are gonna want to see that, and it's gonna be a lot more competition going on. Because like there's a lot of, or it's not even say there's a lot, like there's a good handful of really good downwinders, but as far as like people who are killing it in the surf, there's a good amount more people who are
hundreds, I'd say, whereas there's probably
20 or 30,
maybe a bit more now. It's probably growing, but maybe thousands in the surf and 100 downwinding. It's kind of it's and for good reason. The deep water scares a lot of people.
It's scary when you fall in deep water. You're like, oh shit, climbing on your board.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, just locally, usually in summer we see a few hammerheads out in my local downwind run, but I know in Maui you get like tiger sharks and like some bigger stuff. I went over a pretty big shark the other day. It might have been, I'm not sure what sort of shark it was, but it was big and fat, and it was pretty far down, but I could see its shadow. When you're coming up to something like, oh, is that a bit of seaweed, is it a log? And I like sort of went a little bit higher because I could see it. And I'm looking down, I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, that's a shark. I just sort of kept going like over, and I'm like, okay, don't fall now. You know, you get a bit scared. You like, you know, get a bit like on edge.
Yeah, pretend it's not even there.
Yeah. Have you had any shark, or spotted any sharks down Maliko or Kihei?
I've had a couple. Actually, one time me and my dad were downwinding. We were trying out a new prone board, a prone paddleboard that he had kind of just developed. And so we were taking turns on the jet ski. You know, we were just getting into Kahului Harbor, maybe probably 3 miles outside of Kahului Harbor. So like in a pretty kind of sharky area over there. And we had literally just switched. So I had just gotten off the foil board and climbed onto the jet ski, and my dad just gotten onto the foil board and was about to like just gotten into the water. And I go to start the jet ski, and as soon as I'm about to start it, I just hear, "Get the fuck back over here!" And I'm like, "What?" I turn around, and my dad's like climbing on the back of the jet ski, and I stand up and I look, and there's like literally probably a 12 to 15-foot tiger shark, clear as day, just cruising right behind him.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, like once he was back on, it was, we were like checked it out, kind of followed it for a second. But man, that thing was probably following us for, I have no idea how long it was following us, but it was following us.
Yeah.
It was kind of sketchy, but
what I've found,
nothing's really happened. Like nothing bad has happened so far. So
nothing bad yet. Yeah, and touch wood. You know, of course, we don't want anything to happen. But I don't know about you, but sometimes when there's more boats around, the sharks seem to come because of fishermen. You know, like people who fish, you know, throw the guts overboard, and they're like, okay, well, there's an engine. Maybe there's food too. So with the foil. Normally the sharks I see aren't hunting. They're just like literally like they're just cruising along the surface. And like my motto is if you see the shark, it doesn't want you. Like it doesn't want to eat you. Whereas if you should be if you can see it, you're sweet. If you can't see it, that's when you should be afraid. So it's like, because if they're going to get you, they're going to come up from underneath. And they're not going to come like
it's the shark you can't see that you got to worry about.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I've had a bit of an experience falling off at Pier 1 on a prone downwinder.
That's exactly where we saw it.
Yeah, that seems to be the spot.
Yeah, they love it over there. I've seen some big fish out at Pier 1.
Yeah, big fish.
That's such a good spot. I've been doing a bit of tow foiling out there. Oh my God, it's so good. That wave is, I mean, you could probably catch a wave for almost a mile, probably like right around like 2 kilometers, I'd say.
Yeah.
From the outside all in.
And it's right there at the boat ramp, so it's easy, right?
Yeah.
As well.
Like a 5-minute ski ride, you're out into like 300-meter long, like just huge walls that are just moving.
Yeah.
I'm excited. This weekend is actually supposed to be a huge swell.
Oh,
like I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 40-foot faces out there, and
wow.
You know, I'm gonna try and get a couple.
Yeah, just to share the stuff with us. We all want to watch. Do some Insta lives. We'll follow along with you.
Yeah. I'll try to. I'm working on arranging some photographers right now and getting some skis ready. Yeah, I think this next swell we're gonna get some crazy videos and footage out of this.
Oh, how good!
Actually, last year, it was like last March, we got this really weird like out of season north swell. It was like straight north and probably one of the biggest ones we had all year. And there was this like huge like misto like ghost peak that I've never seen before, probably almost like a mile straight outside of the harbor mouth. Like harbor mouth is here, Pier 1's usually to this side, but there was this peak straight out this way that was just standing up probably almost 40 feet, rolling into the harbor and then closing out the entire harbor mouth. And me and my dad, we had checked Pier 1 and a couple other spots, and we were gonna go back into the harbor because they're like, it's kind of all wonky everywhere, I don't know. And we see this peak just standing up, and Dad's like, "Oh, you want to give it a go?" And I'm like, "Heck yeah, let's see what this thing is all about." And he whipped me into this one. He told me, he's like, I was almost gonna tell you not to let go, but I was like, I'm all soft. I want the biggest wave I can get.
Yeah.
So I let go, and I'm getting into it, and I'm getting kind of close to the harbor mouth, and I'm like right in front of the jacks on the left side if you're looking into the harbor mouth. And so like I'm trying to cut over to my right to get more to the other side of the harbor mouth, but then I see that side of the harbor mouth like starting to close out almost. So I like have to like straighten out, and I was really probably like less than 50 to 100 yards like away from these giant cement jacks, and I just barely shot through. It was probably a good like 30, almost 40-foot face on that thing. It was the biggest wave I ever foiled, like hands down.
Yeah.
Fastest I've ever gone on a foil, and I was like, oh my god.
and with a cement block right in front of you. Jeez,
Yeah.
that's sketchy.
No, it was the sketchiest wave I've ever ridden. God, it was so much fun. It was so exciting.
Okay, so let's
it.
get into some of the tow foil stuff. Like what equipment are you using? Like length mast, board, foils. What are you running?
I'm usually running, I think I got a 30. I'm running a 32-inch mast, which is kind of small for what most guys are using. I've seen a lot of guys like the longer mast, but when I'm in bigger stuff, I like to feel like I'm a lot more in control. And the longer masts, I feel like they have a little more kind of give in them. So
yeah.
from the time you give that command to the time you feel it react, there's almost a little bit of a delay.
Mm-hmm.
And with the little shorter mast, I feel like I just have control. Like when I'm leaning on it, it's doing what I tell it to do a little faster.
Yeah.
So usually rocking a 32 mast. My dad, I've been riding the I think it's a 4-4 tow board last year, but we just came out with a 310 that I rode, I think 2 or 3 times so far this winter, and I've nothing in anything huge yet, but I've really been liking the feel of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Al made like a TKR that's literally probably about this big.
Yeah.
And so it's just the tiniest little
Is that
little front wing.
So is that the one? Do you know what size it is? Or is it just like one that he made?
It's just one that he made like specifically just for towing. Like I think the regular one, it's got like the kind of curve in it.
Yeah.
But it's the regular one's maybe about like something like that. The one we're using, the tow foil, is like literally like probably right around a foot, maybe a little less than a foot.
Yeah.
And it's like that thing. It's like a blade. Like you could chop someone's arm off with it if you want. Like,
super thin.
So thin.
Yeah.
But it's not really, I'm not even, I don't know like what tail exactly. So a lot of it's like all prototype stuff, because I mean there's not too many people buying foils to ride
40-foot waves. Yeah. And then so do you know if you're using like a longer pedestal, like longer fuse, or a shorter fuse? What do you prefer when big stuff?
It's a little longer fuselage, just because so you can lock in a little more. The shorter ones have a little more tilt in them,
Yeah.
So you bring that out a little bit, so it's a little smoother when you're dropping in.
Yeah.
Because like when you're dropping in, you're going so fast, and I'm like fading it pretty far down to the bottom, so I can crank the bottom turn back up. Because like you just want as much control as possible on those waves.
Yeah.
And like I'm not just trying to survive. Like I'm trying to like carve big downturns down.
Exactly.
There,
Yeah.
That's where it's at.
That's where it's at. And like you said, like I see too many people on the big waves. Like, yeah, it's sicker in a big wave, but you're just holding on. I want to see you attack the wave. Like, so either you got to go for a smaller wave or use a smaller foil and just like attack the thing. Yeah. So it's cool to hear you got your set up dials.
We got some good footage a little earlier this year. We had a few filmers, so hopefully we get some of that footage out soon, because that was a really good session. And then last year I got out to Jaws on the foil a few times, not on like any huge days, but some good, 20, maybe 30-foot face days.
Okay.
And oh my God, that's the funnest wave to foil, because it's just such a big peak. Like
the wedge,
those days where it's just barely breaking, you're taking off probably half a mile outside of where it's breaking, and just like a big old ski slope, just carving back and forth and back and forth. And then in the critical sections, you can kind of just draw these like just Mach 5 turns. Like, oh my God, it's insane. It's so
sick. Yeah, I guess I want to see that footage, because I'll you have to send me a photo of that foil you're using, because I've got Alex sent me a TKR. I think he called it a TKR 80, and it has that sort of like kind of curved thing going on. But I can to me it's a little bit too big. I can pump it between waves, like just paddling in on 4-foot days. So it's like, I think sounds like he made you a smaller one, which I'm jealous.
He made a little smaller one to tow some bigger stuff with.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully in the next few weeks we'll be because we're supposed to start getting some pretty decent surf.
Yeah, it's coming into it's the time of year for you guys. I want to finish off with two things. One, story on your recent Jaws session, and then just some tips for downwind stuff. So do you want to tell us a little story about that last Jaws session?
That last Jaws session it was real. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It was a reforming cyclone. So a lot of the models had underpredicted it. And my friend Andrew Carr, who's actually a big wave bodyboarder, he is like a wave report guru. Like anything that you could ask him, like, Andrew, what's the surf like in like West Africa right now? He knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
All he does all day on his phone and see what the swells are doing around the world, because he's actually coming over on Friday to surf this next big swell. But so he'll just jump on a plane and go anywhere the surf is big. So I'd been talking to him for a couple of days, and he's like, the models don't look that big, but it's a reforming cyclone, so I think they're under predicting it. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a bit bigger than they're saying. I was like, I hope so, because the numbers weren't overwhelming on it. Like, it didn't look like it was going to be anything too crazy. So, we go and check it out at probably 9 or 10 in the morning, because it was supposed to peak around 2 or 3. And around 10, 11, we could kind of see it starting to fill in a little bit more. And then at around 12, we're like, all right, this is looking tough that like we want to get out there. It had maybe hit, a couple 20 footers, so like maybe a few 40-foot faces coming through. Hopped off, or we're getting down to the rocks, and we could just tell there's a bit more energy coming through than we had seen out there. And I was riding my 8.6 gun. I didn't think it was gonna be that big. I was like, oh, 8.6. I got my hand paddles on too. My dad had made like big hand paddles, so it was like probably easily the size of a ping pong paddle, with a bungee strap over one of my fingers and then a bungee strap over my wrist.
Yeah.
So it's like if I need to get out of them, I can. I just put my hand in the water and pull it up, and they'll flop right over my wrist, so I can still use my hands, but they're still pretty secure. And so hop off the rocks, timed it good, like just I wouldn't say good, but timed it good enough. I was like that close to getting sucked back onto the rocks, but
it's not easy.
No, God, it's not easy. I am so lucky I have not been caught in the shore break. I've seen so many people end their session before they even pass the shore break,
Yeah.
So luckily got out. I'm out there for a little bit, and it was the first session this year, but I had a few pretty good sessions last year, so I was feeling kind of confident. And I was like, you know what? I see Albie and Tyler and all these guys are shitting real deep and getting those like West Bull barrel insiders. I was like, I'm gonna sit over there. And then sure enough, probably 10 minutes after I get out, the swell was getting bigger and bigger, and I got caught like 10 minutes into the session, lost both my hand paddles, and then I'm just out there on an 8.6, like fully undergunned. There's like 25 foot bombs are coming through.
Yeah.
And it took me a little while, but eventually I kind of found a rhythm, got a wave, and every 45 minutes, something like that, and get another wave. I ended up getting 5 or 6 waves that session. But I remember when that like actual bomb came in, it was like probably around 50, a little over 50-foot face, and that was like one of the gnarliest waves I've seen out there. Like I've been out there on a few bigger days than that, but just like the speed was coming in was like different. Like some days it's real tall, but it's not as thick and gnarly. That thing came in so angry, like it just hit the ledge and just dumped. And I was just so lucky that I wasn't in that. Like I think 5 guys maybe got cleaned up by that set, and that one dude, I can't name Rice, like something Rice. He broke his femur on that set.
Oh, no way.
I had heard from one of his mates or one of his friends that I guess his leash had actually wrapped his leg, and so when it pulled, the leash basically just shattered his whole leg.
Holy, yeah.
So gnarly. And actually, it's funny. Last night I was getting dinner and I saw Ryan Funk, this really good sup big wave surfer, who had broken his leg the year before. And so he's like, yeah, I'm finally healed up. I want to get back out there again. But like, yeah, stuff like that that wave that wave will do it to you.
You got to respect it. That's for sure. Yeah, you got to.
I haven't gotten too smoked out there. I've taken some beatings, and I've had some gnarly hold unders, but nothing too bad yet. But a lot of
So the hand paddles seem like a pretty good way to get in that a little bit earlier, right? So you're
oh
getting
yeah,
in.
I mean, like it's just that little advantage, like any type of advantage, I think it's gonna. I'm surprised they're not as big of a thing already. It's like, I mean, I guess it's the same thing as with the inflation vest and the life jackets and all that. Like in the beginning, guys were like, "Oh, what is that? Like, why are you wearing a life vest, this and that?" But then after time, people just realize like, "Oh, it's just a way for people to push the sport." Like you're not going to catch a 50-footer if you don't think you're going to float up to the surface. But
Yeah.
with that little confidence, you're like, all right, I got this thing. I know if I wipe out and I black out or whatever happens, I know I'm coming to the surface at least. So with the hand paddles, it's like it just gives me more confidence. Like I can ride a smaller board, I can get in earlier, set a more aggressive line, and really ride the waves how I want to ride them rather than just surviving them.
Yeah.
So like last year I had a couple sessions with the hand paddles, and man, I just felt so confident. Like I even let Kai try them for a little bit, and Kai was like, "Oh my god, dude, what are these things? Like, I want to get a pair of these."
Yeah.
He was pretty psyched on them. So I mean, I didn't get to use them much last session,
No.
but hopefully we get another session that I can really show people what you can really do with them, and maybe they'll catch on a little bit more. But I mean, even the smallest advantage when it comes to waves like that, like it's the world.
Oh, for sure. I
So
guess the only thing
yeah,
people are probably a little bit, and I got a question for you on them, is how is it popping up with them? Is it no issue? Like, are you just using the hand paddles? You like literally just hand paddles flat on the board and you just push up, or is it a little bit trickier?
I got a little angle on them. Like it took me a few tries. Like I didn't like that wasn't the first time I had tried them.
No.
I had tried them longboarding out in like small waves for a few days, like because my dad actually made them to do downwind prone foiling.
Yeah,
Because
that's what I figured. Yeah.
yeah, because it's so hard to paddle in with just your hands. So he made the paddle so you just get a little more speed into them. So he's like, dude, you should try these out of Jaws. Like you'll get in way earlier. So I was like, all right. So tried them and maybe like head high surf a few times. So this isn't too bad. And then I tried them on a day that was maybe like maybe 15, 20-foot bases. And I was like, oh, dude, I'm getting in so much earlier, setting way more aggressive lines, and I'm feeling way more comfortable. And then a little while later, I tried them out at Jaws for the first time, and it was just a game changer. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
god, like, I'm getting it so early, and it's like getting up like usually go like that. You got to stagger them a little bit so you have a little more room. But I mean, it's not so much of an issue that it's like, I can't do it. Like once you figure it out, I don't even think about it when I'm popping up.
Yeah.
And they almost give you a little something extra to push on. Like when you're setting a bottom turn, you can almost use it like how like when you're stand up paddling, you can use that paddle to push on and
Yeah.
set
Yeah.
that bottom turn. You can almost use it like a paddle. You lean over, you can put a little pressure on it and set a little harder bottom turn on it.
It's like a hand plane. You're hand planing
Exactly.
while. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Because that's what I was going to say. Is like I've surfed Jaws once, and they called it baby Jaws. It's still probably the biggest surf I've ever been out in. But I was on a SUP with Connor and Jake Jensen back in 2016. It's actually the same time I first met Alex and got some of the GoFoils.
no way.
And we surfed Jaws that time, and I was pretty happy I was on a stand up because you just get in that little bit earlier. Like you can see the wave coming, and you like for me for the first time out there, like obviously I was a bit nervous, like how do they like because SUPs aren't always the best accepted no matter where you go, but it seems like they're okay out there.
Yeah.
For big waves, I see a lot of advantages on a SUP.
Dude, I love stand-up paddling big waves. Like, if it weren't for the fact that like I'm trying to get into PI Challenge and get a little bit of a name for myself as like a prone surfer, I'd be out there on a SUP almost every time.
Yeah.
Like you have so much more of an advantage. You can get in earlier. You can see what's coming. You can get out of the way faster. You can set more aggressive lines. Like on glassy days, like I'd definitely rather prefer like a stand-up paddle. Like, yeah, this weekend it's supposed to be pretty glassy and big. It's not a Jaws swell. It's a little too north for Jaws, but down at Pier 1, I think it's gonna be like 30, 40 foot like cloud break, but a right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I've had one of my one of my best ever sessions at Pier 1, it was before the last sunset sup event. And I went over to, it was too messy on Oahu. So I flew over to Maui and caught up with my dad and stepmom. And yeah, dad was like, dude, Pier 1's going to be on today. And we went out there and there were 2 guys out and I paddled out and they just came in. And then I got a couple by myself, and then Kai came and he was towing him with straps and doing backflips and stuff. And I'm like, that was pretty cool. But P1's such a fun wave. Like
so fun. It's not as intimidating as Jaws, but
definitely
the waves, like when it's really going, it's almost just as good. Like it might not be 50 foot, it might only be 30 foot.
Yeah,
but still just so much fun. And last time I went out there last year, I had one really good session I was on an 8-2 stand paddleboard, and dude, I could just get in so early, just set the most aggressive line, like roll in, get to the bottom, just like snap up into the pocket and like ride it how I want to ride it, like surf the wave how you want to, rather than just like setting a line that's just good enough to work. You can really, you have so much more options. I don't know.
Like to me, most of the guys that are riding like big waves on their big wave guns, they can't duck dive them. So there's like you may as well, and they're long, and as you said, they're sort of harder to surf. Whereas the stand up, you can use something that's smaller, get onto it earlier, and you can turn harder because of the paddle. And so for me, I've always thought, why aren't guys big wave surfing on sups? It seems obvious, but it's the whole surfer thing, isn't it? It's like they're a bit closed minded. We're open to everything.
Exactly. Like just like traditional prone surfers, they are a little like if you're not on like a traditional prone surfboard, it's not as cool, I feel like people who are into foiling, stand-up foiling, windsurfing, or all these other things, they see waves more as like just purely canvases. Like, what is the best way to paint this picture, rather than like, oh, you need to use this if you want to do it, or it's not cool. But when you can, like, that's why I ride everything. I look at a wave and I'm not like, oh, I want to shortboard this. I look at a wave and say, what is the best way to ride this wave? Whether it's like a frail board, stand-up paddle board, or it's regular shortboard. Like I feel like when you have more options, you have more fun.
Exactly right. I was just chatting to a friend out in the surf today, and she was like, how's foiling? It looks like it's pretty fun. I'm like, it's so fun. It's like every day is pumping, and if it's too big for foiling, you go surfing. And if it's too messy for surfing, you go foiling. And like there's days that's good for everything, and you can pick and choose. But it's like, as you said, the wave is a canvas, and paint whatever picture you want. You can draw whatever line.
Best for you, exactly.
Yeah. No, very cool. I want to just wrap up, and just a few tips for those getting into downwind foiling, and maybe something on the hand paddles, or how to pop up, or whatever you think is going to benefit people, the listeners.
Well, I feel like a lot of people have their own techniques for popping up and getting in and all this. Like, definitely work on your stand-up paddling, get a good paddle down, to get into bumps. But once you're up and you're riding, I'd say the best advice I can give everyone is open your view of what you can and can't get. Like when you're downwind paddling on a regular board, your view is maybe that wide. But when you're on a foil board, you have basically 360 degrees of options. You could be pumping on a bump and then look almost behind you and see, a good bump over there, and you're like, all right, that's where I got to be. Take that speed, go over there, or take it, go back there, go over there. Like, don't just look at what's in front of you. Look completely at what's around you, because any bump that is within 100 yards is a viable option for your next glide. So always be looking around you. Like when I'm foiling, my head's like going like this the entire time. Like I don't stop looking around, because the next good bump could literally be right behind you, or like anywhere. So I'd say that it's just don't give up, keep going. It took me probably 15 to 20 runs before I was even up for 5 minutes. It took me a long time, because it's reading the bumps is so much different than anything else. Like just learning how to do it. Like my first like five to 10 runs, I was getting up for maybe a minute at a time, maybe 2 minutes. and I felt like I was stuck. And then I hit the 5-minute mark and it was getting a little easier. And then you hit the 10-minute mark and you're like, all right, now I feel like I'm actually getting somewhere. And then once you pass the 10-minute mark, then you can kind of really see what's in front of you, what's behind you. And you get that sense of like, all right, everything around me is a possibility for the next bump to keep going.
Yeah.
You know, so just be real vigilant of what's going on around you.
Perfect, mate. They're great tips.
Don't give up. Keep going.
Yeah, don't give up, because like you said, it's a steep learning curve. Like the downwind foiling is probably the hardest thing to learn, but you've just got to put the time in and don't be disheartened.
You'll hate it. Like your first couple of runs, you'll be like, this sucks. I hate this. And then you'll see someone else doing it and you're like, that looks fun though. Like, I just got to keep going. Don't give up. Just keep going.
Yeah. No, it's been a pleasure to have you on, mate. And it's good to catch up as well. And we'll excited to see how this swell pans out for you. Be safe, charge. I'm excited to see how it all goes. And thanks for coming on, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to talk to you. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Let me know when you get over to Maui, man. Can't wait to see you again.
Yeah, it's overdue for sure.